Hello, good day to you all. My name is Esperanza Smith, and I am so thankful that LifeGrove has invited me to the Equinox Jubilee. It is an honor to be here with so many other esteemed guests, so many educators and healers in their own right, and I am thankful to be joining in today's event to be able to share with you about energy medicine. So energy medicine, to give you a little bit about my background, is something that has been a deep connection with me throughout my life. And in so many ways, before I even realized that I was healing with it, I had been using energy as a child, having different types of psychic experiences that some of you may relate to, being able to perceive into other dimensions of my own being with color, with light, with sound, and being able to tap into that invisible world that is also consisting of energy. And for me, my path took me into ones of working with education, and by that I mean that all the paths that I took were involved with holistic education, and I applied them to my work in social services and then as a Waldorf educator. I've written about it. It's a deep love of mine to write as well, so I'm a writer and an author as well, and also a mother and a grandmother. And all of these parts of my own self and my own experience always revolved around energy medicine. At a very young age, I was introduced into metaphysics. My father was a metaphysician and studied very much his whole life out of metaphysics, and so I knew little bits about it. I had a mother who was involved in Catholicism during her upbringing, so she had a connection with the spiritual world. So for me, there was always an application between the spiritual and the world of science coming together. Although I didn't study science and metaphysics in a formal education, it was always part of my background and my spiritual path. And then having studied many different spiritual paths and religions, I was always about connecting the pieces that brought the Eastern philosophies and the Western philosophies and the different types of religions together. For me, it's always been about that connection, which again led back to this whole premise of energy and energy medicine. So I'll start just by saying that that concept, which was a concept for me for a very long time, was about being able to bring an understanding of how everything is connected. And that was my fascination with my spiritual path, with my metaphysical studies, with my practices, when I was teaching in the classroom, when I was raising my children and working over them, healing with Reiki and laying of the hands, and working with my own body and my healing, and then also working with 7 death initiations that I had that were a part of a metaphor and literal experiences that I had had, and brought me back around to a recall of previous times that I've lived. And perhaps some of you have those kinds of understandings, or even, those notions that are kind of in the back of our mind. But they're all coming to the forefront right now, I believe. And there is a recall for all the healers at this particular moment in time. So all of us, of course, have been through this pandemic, and whether it's a prophecy coming from ancient knowledge or wisdom, or it's the scientific study of what's happening with our planet at this time, there are so many pieces that are bringing us to an understanding of this shift in our consciousness. So energy being that foundation of consciousness, it is consciousness ever expanding, has been something that I have understood to be in everything that exists somehow is comprised of energy. And so it was always very easy and practical for me to imagine, oh yes, energy, this is the way I connect to it, through my experiences with sound, with color, with light, movement, and then other subtleties like in the spoken word, in the proximity to another living being, whether it be from the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, or other human beings, or even those that exist on the other side, more in the spirit realm. So these are the parts that I was always tapping into, and I'd like to be able to discuss it a little bit more on a practical level to be of benefit for you and your healing today. So I'll start out with some of the work that I'm doing at this current moment. And it's also behind the movement of Pure Esperanza, which is a nonprofit organization that I have founded. Although the organization is really geared more towards meeting where anyone is at on their path of well-being, hence their consciousness ever expanding and educating body, mind, and soul. But for purposes of the work that I want to share with you today, I want to bring you to some of these very practical exercises that you can be doing and working with yourself in terms of healing yourself on that physical, emotional, or mental level, and also in that soul retrieval way that we do when we begin to tap deeper into our own dimensions of being. So just a brief background, and you may already be familiar, it's become so much more mainstream today, ancient as it is, but working with our energy centers and the 7 chakras. So working with that lower energy center, the first chakra down in the root, and then the second, the sacral, right at our belly, the third, the solar plexus, the fourth, the heart, the fifth, the throat, the sixth, the third eye, and the seventh, the crown chakra. And extending that out and beyond into 2 other dimensions of our own being. We can think of them almost as the 8th, which is the soul quality, what embraces us, not just in this lifetime, but in all our lifetimes. So it encompasses our physical incarnation and all the others as well. And then even further up into the realm of spirit, where our soul and everything else is connected. So our individualization here in the 8th extends up into this oneness that is the 9th and is spirit itself, pure raw energy, pure consciousness. And at this particular time, with the consciousness shift that we're moving in and this direction that is bringing us into a new part of our human evolution, this new time that we're in the reconstruction of our own design. And that would be working with these energy centers is a primary way that we can not only tap into that shift that's going on, but move cellularly into that shift as well from an energetic standpoint. So at this particular time, although all of these energy centers are here for our access and for balancing them, it is really essential to be working with these lower 4 so that we can move into those higher frequencies of our own self and our own being and tap into that next step that we are taking as a collective consciousness, as a human race. So with these lower chakras and working with the root chakra, that being our foundation, our grounding of where we are secured in this experience, in this physicality of life. And we can also associate that with the earth qualities. And a little bit later, I'll be sharing with you about the 4 elements as well. But one of these things that I do is use my power tools. So these power tools that we have, we collect along the way. Some of you may already be working with your power tools. Mine have been in the mineral kingdom with crystals, and then also with the plant kingdom. and the elements. But for today, I will be using some Palo Santo and working with this fire element, and the fire element being one of purification, and then bringing this down into this lower realm of my own being, which is the root chakra. And when I'm lighting this Palo Santo, I'm holding an intention here of working with the fire element and down in that center. So once I have the fire working with the Palo Santo, and you can use sage or some other purification tool that you prefer to use, or that is more the quality of connected with you. I'll first start out here at my heart center, placing my intention into the smoke, that it be lifted up into those realms, my 8th and 9th chakras, and connecting. And then I will place a protective circle around us as we do this work. And this time I invite you to join me if you've gathered your tools now, or afterwards if you'd like to gather your tools. And I'm going to hold that intention again. You hold yours. And I'm going to breathe in to the count of 3, and I'm going to exhale to 5 with these words on the in-breath, I am. Holding, connecting with my top chakras, my breath. In the evening, before I go to bed, a very easy practice, or in the morning, or both. Anytime, really. I scan my body by using Palo Santo or just my hand, and placing it on my root chakra, and in that energy field. Each of these chakras have their own energy field going on, and I imagine it, and it is, a little vortex of spiraling energy. So I take my Palo Santo when I'm working with that, or my hand, and I place it down into my root energy field. And I began to turn clockwise in a fashion that allows the energy to work rhythmically. And I feel that in the energy field in my hands, and I actually can also lift my hands away from there and feel the energy. Now, this isn't anything that is just something for a person who has specific gifts or connected spiritually. It is accessible to all of us, and all it takes is our cultivation of that, our working with that energy in that area, and perceiving, and particularly at this time, because the consciousness shift is moving so quickly. So many of us, even people that weren't inclined to be perceptive on energy levels, are much more readily accessing it, because of the fact that this shift has propelled all of us on a collective consciousness level to be able to perceive more deeply and clearly into these realms. and it will only continue to deepen more. So I work with the energy level there, and I just get a sense for how is it feeling. Does it feel stuck? Does it feel stagnant? Does it feel weak? And then I can work and I can speak to that energy center and the corresponding organs and parts of my body that work with this root chakra. Here at the base, it's very much a foundation of, where I stand in the world, feeling safe, feeling grounded, feeling certain in the work that I'm doing. It's here in this realm that also I know that there's a depth to the creativity that I can bring up into my other energy centers too. This is my connection with the earth. And then moving into this next center, the sacral center in the belly, I also begin to rotate clockwise and perceive into, again, the energy in this field and the organs connected with it, which are all those intestinal organs that are working for us, digesting our food, like the digesting of the experiences we have emotionally, the digesting of the energy fields we walk in through the course of the day with other individuals, other relationships, other encounters that we have. So there's a whole work that's going on here in this sacral chakra. And backtracking down to the root, also being aware of the colors, the intensity of my reds and my oranges here in the sacral, and then into the yellow, which is a way that I perceive. Perhaps you're more connected to just the energetic field, the warmth or the coolness of it, or the color of it, or the vibration of it. We all have this way that we perceive into it, and there are many ways. So I'm just naming a few for you today that you might be able to connect with. Then here in the field of gold, yellow, this is the solar plexus. This is my center for I am, where I gain my identity into the world, the work that I'm here doing. And then working here into the heart chakra. Green, life, abundance. So we've worked from the red to the orange and the yellow in these realms of earth and water and fire, and now here with air, all that work of our breath, the lungs, and being able to perceive into our own physiology as well. Places that we may have inadvertently inherited predispositions to illnesses in any of these realms, and working to be free of them. So we can be speaking to our body as well as the energy centers on that cellular level and releasing the energy. And when we release it, we release out into that field. And the reason I'm concentrated on these four right now, as I had mentioned earlier, is because of this juncture that we're at right now, this critical time in our human history and the evolution that we're in right now. By clearing these lower energy centers, we are freeing ourselves to be more connected and ready to have these frequencies more connected to our upper energy centers, our upper chakras. And when we work in this way, we begin to change the actual frequencies of these lower centers to the point that people that are working with sound or with light are beginning to see the shift of the megahertz in these lower energy centers and how they're being affected and being raised, as well as the colors from the intensity of red to more of a rose. So there is a transformation, and that's happening on all levels, and that is moving into the transfiguration of who we are now becoming as a human race. When we then move into our throat chakra, being the blue, we can begin to intensify that communication and those higher frequencies, moving up from our lower energy centers and into the indigos of our third eye and into the crown, connected back up to the 8th and 9th centers, pure spirit, connecting our work here. So all of this is about being able to free up any of the contaminations and the accumulation and the blockages, sort of the sludge that's come down into these energy centers. And it's not just through one experience or because, qualification of good or bad or evil or any of that. It's just the accumulation over the course of lifetimes, lives that we've all lived, and in that soul consciousness, all the things that have existed, all the things that have been harmful to mankind as well as beneficial, and in it contained in each one of us, lives that we have led from the villain, the perpetrator, to that of enlightened love, light, kindness. All of these things have existed in the collective consciousness, and they exist in us. And so, therefore, we contain, and in that connection of how everything is connected in energy, we contain all of this as well. And we support it in some ways. So whatever we're seeing out there is reflected back to us. This is an eternal connection that we have in this web of life. So for these activities and this scanning that I'm referring to right now, you can think of it as a mindful practice. You can think of it as a way to hone in on your energy and on your clearing, and keep that work alive with you every day. So in keeping that work alive with you every day, it's part of a daily maintenance of ourselves. And I think of it as a sustenance, just like we need food to nourish us energetically. Even with food, everything that's coming into us needs to be integrated, processed and integrated. And so when we do the scanning of the body and we're working with our energy, we're really communicating with these deeper parts of ourself. And I think of it as dimensional parts of our own being. So we're further integrating all these dimensions, connecting them together. This is part of that energy that I was referring to earlier on, and the connections that we make. So this being yet another activity that further allows us to integrate and process everything that's happening right at this moment. In our consciousness, we're giving it our attention, our awareness, further expanding that consciousness within us. Each of us doing that bit is contributing to that shift also, and that greater collective consciousness that is expanding right at this time. It is what will bring us over, usher us into this next dimension and evolution of our human history. So the other piece that I really wanted to share as far as this everyday sustenance is that it is the balance. That alignment is what we're seeking for our well-being, for the wholeness of our experience here and in our connection with life. The closer we get to that connection, the more that that consciousness emerges within us and out of us, that we are creators and co-creating with life. And so the very essence of our sustenance, our maintenance, our management, our nourishment of energy on all levels is continually allowing us to create and manifest in form out here on the physical plane. Further connecting us with the other realms of our being and those that exist in that spiritual realm or in the invisible realm, and bringing them or out of the ethers and into this physical form of our purpose here on the earth now and in this lifetime. The other part that I wanted to share with you today was with regards to the 4 elements and working more deeply with that balance and alignment. So like an onion and peeling off all those layers, we get to go deeper and deeper into that work. When I spoke to you of working with those chakras, the way you would be working with them in your own personal space would be to move in that realm of each of those energy centers, or perhaps working with an energy center, but of course it would be fluid motion that you would be working through these energy centers. And for anyone to try this, whether you've tried it a million times or you haven't tried it before, but to extract little bits and pieces of what I'm sharing with you today, to be able to further deepen the work that you're doing right now in your own healing, whether it's the traumas, the stories, the the karmic work that you're still working on right now with yourself, with others, the entanglements that we have with the relationships, our spouses, our children, our family members, all of those pieces, and really working to free up that energy. So when we work out and put it out into that energy field, we now get to work with that energy that's in that raw form of spirit. And we'll be talking about that a little bit right now as we talk about those sacred fires at work too, and that alchemical process in that transformation and transfiguration of ourself. Going into those 4 elements and working with those lower chakras, we are working with earth, water, fire, and air. And so we bring in those elements to do that work with us. And we can access them by actually being out in the element and activating it on our cellular level, or even by using it in our home, like this candle, and being close to the fire right here. So working with that earth element when we're walking out in nature, when we're grounding ourselves down, we can also be setting that intention for those lower chakras, especially the ones that have felt weak or where we have not felt ourselves grounded. Perhaps they were traumas from our childhood, different experiences that we've had that left us shaken. Here's where we get to root back into the ground again, and using the earth to do that. The mineral kingdom is beautiful for that work as well as sitting on rocks or boulders. There was a time when I lived in the mountains, and one of my favorite pastime activities was to go and be like a lizard, lay on a rock. And I would use both the earth and the sunshine working to activate and stimulate that cellular work that I was doing to heal myself. So that's one way that you can easily access and work with that element, and really allowing ourselves to regain a sense of our trust of Mother Earth holding us and embracing us, and our connection with that, and our stewardship of the earth right now also. For all of you who are listening to this right now and awakening to your work as an earth keeper, you will be able to recognize how powerful it is when we come in that resonation with the vibration of the earth itself. Working into that sacral area, so much of our sexuality, our reproductive system, so much of that fluidity of the water element, and also the emotional realms that we exist in, and being able to use that healing water. It's like the buffer, the ease, the calm, the salve, that we get to work into it. And I would encourage you, if you have a body of water that you can get into, whether it's the ocean, the lake, a river, a pond, or even your bathtub, but to immerse yourself in that water and allow yourself to experience that floating that you can do, where you become weightless, where you allow the water to carry you. And so immersing yourself into a deep body of water will do that for you, but even if you're soaking in the tub and just allowing the water element to penetrate you. And I would say to you, even if you don't have a tub and you're in the hot shower, allowing the water to run on you, or standing outside in a rainstorm and allowing that water to come over you. You know, when we look at the element of water, we can see how so many initiations, baptisms have been held in water. And so that element itself has been used throughout ancient traditions and wisdoms as a healing quality. So this is another element that we can tap into and use actively, along with working with our sacral chakra and allowing that fluidity that works in our body to move in a way that is natural. So that's where the energy has to be moving, and that work that we did scanning earlier is really about being able to keep that fluidity going through your whole body, working into that next element of fire. This is another element of initiation, and another very ancient and important wisdom of this time that we're in, as part of the spiritual alchemy, the transformation and transfiguration of our own self, of our divinity, of ascending to those higher states. So in this realm of fire, we talk about the element of fire, and we come to know it also in that dimension of our energy center and the solar plexus, and the fires also in our digestive system, the fires doing all that churning and mulching and all that heat that is present. We experience it in the sun and in that light, and that's where we can also see that the fire, beyond this element that we see it within the four elements, also becomes elevated into a spiritual fire. And that spiritual fire is one of the cosmos. And I would say that that one is lifted up beyond our energy centers and encompasses us more like in the 8th and the 9th realms that I referred to earlier, and it consumes. So this is an intense fire that we can also connect with. We also see it in these other vibrations of, you know, the fire of a candle, the fire of a fireplace, a bonfire, a campfire, and whenever we experience heat, like in the sunshine. But when we actually go to that sun and we know of these indigenous and ancient wisdoms where they worshipped what appeared to be the sun, it was the light that is beyond the ethers, out into the cosmos. It's our return home. So that is another part of the fire. moving into the air. You know, we see that as the heavens, our breath, our circulatory system in the heart, and all that we get to experience in this quality of air that is weightless, again, full of that quality of freedom, complete freedom. There's no density to the physical form or any physical matter in that sense. It's lifted up into complete weightlessness, similar to water, also containing that transfiguration quality of already being lifted and freed, the way that fire would consume, and then out into the realm of total, open, wide, eternal. So we find our vision here, we find our ability to see beyond the beyond, and perhaps some of you already have had those glimpses. It would not surprise me or many to know that that is happening for you, and perhaps this is now coming to you and you're going, aha, yes, it's connecting with me, because this is the time. And as you can see, the four elements are all in us, and they're in our organs, they're in our body, they're in our functions, at every level, and they're all part of us. So the more integrated we become with it, and also the connection that we have with anyone in specific. Earlier I had mentioned about the connection with your power tool, but in essence it's the connection you have with the elements too. Some of us are more inclined towards the earth or water or fire or air, and some of us may be finding new connections that are speaking to us at this particular time. There's more to all of that, and connections even with the four directions, as many of the ancient wisdoms has shown us. But for time purposes of today, I wanted to share with you little bits of work that you can do with the four elements, and how we can apply them with our intention in working with our energy centers as well. I have some different little clips that can further enhance some ideas and ways that you can incorporate the elements, earth, water, fire, and air. And perhaps these can begin sparking inspiration or sowing those seeds of inspiration for you. The main thing that I want to stress at this moment is the fact that while we will listen to many wise beings in many forms, some of us here at the summit, some of the teachers we've had, those that have gone before us, those that will come after us, this is a time in this alchemical process and the transfiguration that the level of expertiseness is waning. The truth of our greatness, each of us, the connection we have with our presence, reveals to us that we are the authors of our life. That the looking out there, trying to find the answers, that veil is thinning. Perhaps it's also the veil from the other side meeting up close to us now, or it's the consciousness shift that's allowing us to perceive differently into the dimensions of existence. In whatever way that it's arriving to you in your consciousness, just as the summit arrived to you, arrived for me, arrived for all of us here in this moment. This work that's going on, not just planetarily, in all the universes, because beyond this earth are all the other universes, all the other planets, all the other universes, and everything is connected. So bringing us back to that idea of this web of life, you know, we're so honored to get glimpses, little perceptions of how it's all connected out there. But in this moment, each and every one of us doing that work. So kind of bringing it all, harnessing it all back in, and then understanding that our work, our purpose is every little bit that our consciousness, our awareness goes into the moment I'm creating right now, presently. That's the contribution, that's the service. So if you're being called to serve, know that whether it's that you're healing others, healing yourself, working in all these beautiful ways, it's the losing of the identity into the energy fields that exist. And we are so honored and privileged to be a part of that expansive energy doing its work right now, through each and every one of us, in every way, in every moment that we breathe. I would love to connect with you further and do work with you on energy medicine. And just know that in this moment, I am perceiving each of you in that great luminous body that you are. And I'm so thankful that at this moment in time, we're all sharing this perceived space, and that we're here living right now on the earth. It's such a very important time. And it's so full of so much hope, rejuvenation, transformative, and miracles that lie ahead for our children, our children's children, their children, and beyond, as well as it's an honor to all those who have gone before, preparing the path for us right now. Inspiration seeds for working with the 4 elements. And now I'd like to close with a thanks to the 4 directions, Mother Earth and Father Sky, just as we had opened with that protective circle around us, the feeling of our energy field of that luminous light. We'll close it now, offering a song of gratitude. Spirit, move me to the south. Spirit, move me to the west. Spirit, move me to the north. Spirit, move me to the east. Spirit, move me all around, shining like the sun. To the 4 directions, to the direction of the south, the serpent working through us, the Kundalini, its fire, its flight. And to the west, Jaguar medicine, fearless, able to devour whatever is in the darkest places within us, and spur us on into transformation to the direction of the north. Fast, swift, ever moving, and still, perfectly still. The joy, the peace of hummingbird. Into the direction of the east, where the great eagle's vision flies forward, out into and beyond where we are today and where we will be tens, hundreds, millions years ahead, and all of it right here in the now. And in some of the recall of my ancestral wisdom, those lodges that exist in each of the four directions, coming from all the indigenous medicine people before, today, and long yet to come. We give thanks, and we give thanks to our Mother Earth, all of the elemental beings, all the elements at work and play with us and our healing, all the love that is bestowed upon us, as any mother does for her child, is for her child. And to Father Sky, with the brilliant light that shines upon us all, warming us all, protecting us all, guiding us, and for the union of Mother Earth and Father Sky in us and the four directions.